My name is Mara Lynette Cole, 26 years old. The ticket lived in my sock drawer for 3 days. Like a sleeping animal, I didn't dare wake. Every time I opened the drawer for a pair, the paper looked back at me, $8.4 million, like a dare and a sentence. After taxes, it was still a number big enough to make rent a rumor and someday a joke. I pinched the corner to be sure it wasn't a hallucination, then closed the drawer on the biggest secret I'd ever owned. The heater in my studio clicked and sighed, and finally gave up pretending, a breath that turned to silence. I layered socks and stood close to the oven. On the tiny table, the letter from the power company lay under a mug, as if weight could make it kinder. I should have called my family. That's what people do when lightning hits. But every time I reached for my phone, last Thanksgiving reached back. That night at Mom's, the turkey was dry and the laughter wasn't. I asked to borrow $200 for a car repair, so I could keep my night job. Mom said times were tight, her nails still glossy from a weekend spa she'd posted with captions about deserved rest. My brother Brandon laughed and said I should learn to budget, this from a man who'd once borrowed $3,000 for business expenses that looked suspiciously like a mountain bike and a weekend in Vegas. My aunt suggested I get a third job instead of asking for handouts. Everyone clinked glasses. The pie tasted like dish soap. With the lottery numbers in my drawer and the memory of that table in my throat, a thought arrived clean and cold. If money is a mirror, I wanted to see who my people were without it. I wouldn't tell them, not yet. So I kept both jobs, the diner, where the coffee never tasted like the smell, and the graveyard stock shift that taught me the exact weight of a gallon of milk. I wore the same thrifted cardigan and whispered to my car on the left turns. I waited. 2 weeks later, my landlord taped a notice to my door. Rent up $400 next month. I stared at it until the ink blurred and decided to pretend the drawer didn't exist. Then I called my mother with a voice that wasn't pretending at all. "I'm going to lose the apartment," I said. "I don't know what to do." "Have you tried making coffee at home instead of buying it?" she asked, the tone of a podcast. "Little things add up." "I haven't bought coffee in 6 months," I said, but I said it to air. She was already narrating the books she'd read about frugality. I called Brandon, asked if he could float me a security deposit for a cheaper place. "Can't," he said, cheerful. "Brittany and I are saving for a boat." "A boat," I repeated, looking at the duct tape on my shoe. My aunt suggested I move back in with Mom because clearly I wasn't ready for independent living. I was working 70 hours a week. Independence was the only thing I had. I thanked her. My voice sounded like a sweater pilled from too much wear. The breaking point didn't arrive with a bill. It arrived with heat. A fever pounded a drumbeat behind my eyes, 103 and climbing. I had no voice for the diner, no strength for the stockroom, no car for the left turns that felt like prayer. I needed a ride to urgent care. That was all, a ride. Mom was hosting book club and didn't want to cancel. Brandon was mid-game. My uncle said his car was acting up. His Facebook showed a new truck shining like a trophy. My cousin said she would, then asked me to Venmo gas money first. I ordered an Uber. The driver's name was Dia. She was a grandmother with a soft voice and hands that looked like they had folded a lot of laundry and buried a few people. She waited with me for 3 hours in a room the color of old mint, bought me crackers from a vending machine, and held my hand when the nurse missed the vein and tried again. When I tried to tip her extra, she pressed the money back into my palm with a frown that wasn't at me. "Family should do this," she said. "I'm sorry yours didn't show up." Maybe the IV cooled my blood enough to think straight. Maybe I was just done. When I got home, I opened the drawer and stared at a number big enough to drown in. All that safety, and not a single person with my last name could spare an hour in a waiting room. A stranger had been my mother for 3 hours. The decision came with the clean click of a well-set bone. I quit both jobs the next day. I told everyone I was moving across the country for a new opportunity. Nobody asked the city. Mom said, "Well, don't come crying to us when it doesn't work out." Brandon sent a thumbs-up emoji. At the diner, Kayla hugged me like she knew more than she said. "You'll land," she whispered. "You always do." I didn't move across the country. I moved 22 minutes away to a small, decent house on a street that smelled like cut grass. Far enough that I wouldn't run into anyone on accident, close enough to keep watch if I chose. I paid cash. I bought a heater that worked on the first try. I turned on a lamp without counting the minutes. On the second night in the house, I drove back to the urgent care and brought Dia flowers with a note that said, "You made sure I got home safe. I want to make sure other people do too." She blushed like a girl and made me stay to eat a cookie that tasted like winter. I started volunteering at the shelter she sometimes staffed, the one with a lobby that tried to look like a living room and succeeded on Tuesdays. The first time I paid for a stranger's groceries in the line behind them and told the cashier to keep it anonymous, my hands shook so hard I spilled quarters. The second time I covered a mechanic's bill for a mom whose toddler would not stop singing the ABCs, I didn't shake at all. It felt, this is the selfish part, like oxygen I didn't know I'd been rationing. I watched my old life fade in the rearview. The diner posted a photo of a new hire. Kayla had given her my apron and my spot at the soda station. My former stockroom replaced me with two teenagers who lifted like they meant it. Mom's Facebook was a carousel of inspirational quotes and brunch mimosas. Brandon posted a selfie at a dealership standing next to a boat brochure. At night, the house creaked in a language I was just learning. I lay awake and listened. Grief for a family is a slow animal. It either curls up and sleeps or paws at the door. I let it paw. Then I made lists. People I want to tell about the ticket. Dia. Nobody else. Things worth paying for. Quiet heaters. Groceries that don't come with guilt. The feeling of being able to say yes when a kid needs cleats. The experiment wasn't about torment. It was about proof. I wanted to believe there was a version of my mother who would show up on a Tuesday, a version of my brother who would say, I've got you. Instead, there was book club and a boat. I wasn't testing them so much as refusing to rescue them from what they'd taught me. On a Sunday morning, I drove a route that didn't exist in my old life. House, farmer's market, shelter. I saw a man outside the market holding a sign that said, laid off, 2 kids, anything helps. The part of me trained by Thanksgiving voices started flipping through accusations about laziness and coffee budgets. I bought him breakfast instead. At the shelter, Dia showed me how to assemble hygiene kits without wasting space. While we packed toothbrushes that looked like afterthoughts and soaps that smelled like clean, she told me about her husband, how he used to call the battered women's shelter the bravest house in town. He taught me the difference between showing up for people and just showing off, she said, eyes shining at nothing. I debated telling her I didn't. Not yet. I wanted her to like me for my cans of soup and unsteady hands, not for the zeros I hadn't earned. 3 months passed in the quiet rhythm of a new life. I woke up without an alarm. My body kept setting one anyway. I learned the names of the shelter regulars, the way Miss Gloria liked her tea, and how Mr. Henson folded his donated sweaters like promises. I funded small miracles in cash envelopes and folded them under counterbells. I learned how to leave kindness where nobody could pin it to me like a medal. When the phone call came, it was from my mother, a number I didn't recognize because I'd trained myself not to. She never calls. Honey, she said, voice strained, we need to ask you something. I sat on my paid-off couch in my paid-off living room and watched a sunbeam climb the plant I hadn't killed yet. Your father and I are in trouble, she said. We need $15,000 or we'll lose the house. I could hear the television murmuring in the background and the clack of her nails on the counter. She sounded like a person reading a script about compassion. I'm sorry, I said, as calmly as a person telling a stranger the time. Times are tight. Have you tried making coffee at home? Silence poured through the line like cold water. This is serious, she said finally, anger trying to find its legs. We're family. You help family. You're right, I said. You do. I could have said yes. I could have mailed a cashier's check and posted a quote about karma. Instead, I looked at the plant and thought about a woman who sat next to my hospital bed for 3 hours and bought me crackers. I'll make you an offer, I said. I'll tell you exactly how you can get that $15,000. But first, you should know something. What? She snapped. 3 months ago, I won $8.4 million in the lottery. The line went silent enough to hear my own blood. You what? After taxes, just over 5. I listened to her breathing, fast, shallow, like someone looking for the edge of a cliff in the dark. And you didn't tell us, she said, her voice feral around the word us? Your own family? I ran a test, I said, steady now, because I believed it. I wanted to see who would help when I had nothing. That's manipulative, she said. More than telling your daughter to make coffee at home when she's about to be evicted? I asked. More than choosing a spa weekend over $200 in breaks? More than a boat over a security deposit? We didn't know, she said, small. We didn't know you had... You didn't know I had money, I said, so you didn't care. She started to cry, a sound that was either real or practiced. I couldn't tell anymore. In the kitchen, my tea kettle began to whisper. Please, she said, we're going to lose everything. Here's my offer, I said. I'll give you a chance to earn that $15,000. Go through your calendar for the past year. Find every time I asked for help, every call, every text. Write down exactly what you chose to do instead. What was more important than helping your daughter? We'll talk in 3 days. That's ridiculous, she said. Okay, I said, then the answer is no. Silence, then a low, reluctant fine. I hung up and stood very still in my quiet house while the kettle sang itself out. Outside, someone's dog barked twice and gave up. In the drawer I no longer needed, the ticket slept, irrelevant. I poured water over a tea bag and watched it bloom. 3 days felt long and exactly right. The calls started before the kettle cooled. Unknown numbers bloomed across my screen like mold finding moisture. I didn't answer. I stared at my tea and listened to the house decide where it wanted to creak. The silence felt earned. By dinner, the experiment had gone viral in a family of 4. We need to talk. From my aunt, who hadn't texted me since 2022. So proud of you chasing new opportunities. From my cousin, who once subtweeted me for thinking struggle is a personality. Call me immediately. From Brandon. I put my phone face down, turned up the radio, and chopped vegetables slowly. Carrots into coins, onions into confession. That night I dreamed of receipts. Not the paper kind, the emotional kind. Little white ghosts with times and dates, and the word no stamped in red. 3 mornings later, at exactly 9:00, my phone rang with the ringtone I'd assigned Mom years ago and never bothered to change. 2 clear bells, hopeful as a door chime. I let it ring the first time, then the second, then answered on the third. I did what you asked, she said without hello. Her voice sounded like someone who'd just run upstairs and found out the room at the top was empty. I went through my calendar. I found 12 times. 13, I said. You forgot the job interview. Your car was in the shop, and then I watched your Facebook Live from book club that night. A beat. 13, she said, smaller. Paper rustled. Do I have to read them? Yes. She exhaled, a defeated deflating. January 15th, she began. You asked to borrow $200 for car repairs. I was, her voice snagged, planning a spa weekend with Linda and Carol. I told you times were tight. That weekend cost $800, I said. I saw the photos. Silence skittered across the line like a cigarette ember. February 3rd, she continued. You needed help moving to a cheaper apartment. I had a nail appointment. I didn't offer to reschedule. You told me independence is a muscle, I said. Keep going. February 28th, she said. And now the words had weight. You asked if you could come over for dinner because you hadn't eaten a real meal in days. I said we weren't home. We were watching The Voice. I said nothing. Somewhere in my house, the refrigerator hummed like a very quiet truth. March 12th, Mom read. You needed a ride to a job interview. I said my car was acting up. I drove to book club at 3. The page shook. April 6th, $50 for groceries. I said no. I bought a $300 purse that afternoon. May 2nd, you asked me to co-sign a lease. I said it was too much risk. I co-signed Brandon's boat loan the week before. The boat he never bought, I said. Next. She kept going. June. My birthday. Missed because she had tickets to a winery tour. July. I'd asked if I could sleep on her couch for a week while I looked for cheaper places. She said the house was undergoing renovations, and then posted a video of a barbecue. August. I called from the side of the road when the car died. She texted in a meeting and sent a meme about adulting. September. I asked for advice about a predatory credit card and got a link to a podcast. October. The Fever Day. Book Club. November. Thanksgiving. You should budget better. December. She'd asked if I could swing by and help wrap gifts because her wrists hurt. I'd been working a double. She'd told me I was always dramatic and then posted the tree. By the time she reached the last one, her voice had scraped itself raw. Are you satisfied? She asked. You've humiliated me. I get it. I've been a terrible mother. Have you? I asked quietly. What? Confronted it, I said. Or are you reading a list to get $15,000? You asked me to make the list. I did, I said. And now I'm asking you to hear what's underneath it. Not the money, the choices. She went quiet. In the background, I could hear the television. I pictured Dad in his recliner with the volume too high, eyebrows knitted, mouthing what's going on across the room. I didn't know, she said finally, reaching for a rope, how serious it was. I told you, I said. You didn't listen. I'm listening now, she said, and the words landed like a cat on a glass table. Okay, I said, then hear this. No. Silence. The deep kind that changes the temperature of a room. No, she repeated, like it was in a language she hadn't studied. I'm not giving you the money. I did the work you asked, she burst. I wrote it down. I see it. You did the minimum, I said. You read me a syllabus, but you didn't apologize. You didn't take responsibility. You didn't ask how to repair. You asked how fast I could wire funds. You're cruel, she said, and there it was, the comfort of an old accusation. I'm consistent, I said. 3 months ago I told you I was leaving. You didn't ask where. You didn't offer to help. You didn't even say you'd miss me. The only thing that changed between then and now is a number you heard on a phone. In the background, Dad's voice rose. Ask her about the house. And Mom hissed, I'm trying like a kettle. So, where do we go from here? She asked finally, sounding older than I remembered. That's up to you, I said. I'm done begging for crumbs. If you want a relationship, you'll have to earn it, not with lists, with change. How? Therapy, I said. The kind you don't Instagram. Figure out why a spa weekend felt urgent and my fever didn't. Why a boat felt safer than co-signing an apartment for your daughter. Why you didn't call back when I said, I'm scared. When you can answer that without asking me for anything, call me. And the house? She sounded small again. We'll lose it. Downsize, I said. Get second jobs. Make coffee at home. That's cold. That's reality, I said, and hung up before the part of me trained to soften could raise its hand. The next call came with no chime at all, just a name, Brandon. I answered because I wanted to see if anything in his voice had changed. What the hell is wrong with you? He shouted before hello. Mom's crying. You're rich and you're letting them drown. You're a selfish... Hey, Brandon, I said. How are you? This isn't funny. No, I said. It isn't. Remember when I called you from the side of the road last summer? What did you tell me? He exhaled like a bad engine. That was different. How? You were being dramatic about money stuff. This is their house. I actually lost my apartment, I said. I actually went hungry. I actually took an Uber to urgent care because my family was too busy watching a game and discussing the night circus. He scoffed. You should have managed your money better. You borrowed $3,000 from me, I said, feeling the line go taut, for a business expense that looked a lot like Vegas. A pause. Then the dull clunk of a grace he thought might work. Fine. I should have paid you back. I'm sorry. Now help Mom and Dad. No, I said. Your apology means nothing with a price tag stapled to it. You can't mean this. We're family. Family shows up, I said. Family doesn't laugh from a recliner and then sprint when there's a zero on the line. You're not my family, he said, ugly as a slur. I smiled into the phone, a shape he couldn't see. I know, I said. That's why we're done. I blocked him while he was still listing my obligations. The house steadied around me. I washed dishes slowly, feeling the ache in my wrists, like I'd been holding a heavy bag too long, and finally put it down. When my phone lit up again, it was Dia, and I answered on the first ring. You sound like you're standing in a doorway, she said. I think I am. You're asking if you're a bad daughter. Am I? You didn't test them, she said, voice a warm blanket. You needed help and they failed. All you did was keep the receipts. Mom says I'm cruel. Truth is cold to people who've been sleeping in warm lies. I feel guilty, I admitted. Of course you do. You were raised to pour your cup into other people's glasses and call yourself quenched, she said. Guilt is the cough when you stop. What if I regret this? Then you regret it in a warm house with a full fridge and a life you built yourself, she said, and you keep moving. After we hung up, I walked the rooms like a security guard meeting a building that finally felt like mine. In the bedroom, I opened the drawer out of habit and found the sock where I'd hidden the ticket like a saint's bone. I laughed, actual laughter that startled the room. On the counter, I made a list in Dia's voice. Turn phone off at 6. Turn heart back on at 7 for people who show up. Tomorrow, shelter. The next morning, I took a bag of groceries and a stack of new sweatshirts to the center where Dia sometimes staffed. A young woman stepped in with 2 kids, and a look I recognized like my own reflection. Exhausted, brittle, determined not to break in public. I found a cart, a clipboard, a quiet place for her to sit. Have you eaten? I asked. We're okay, she lied, soft. I bought sandwiches and brought them back with napkins that felt like dignity. Later, as I was leaving, a woman in a navy cardigan intercepted me near the door. I'm Patricia, she said, offering a hand that had filed a lot of forms. "Director here." "Hi," I said. "I hear you help," she said simply. No lecture, no plaque, just acknowledgement. "I try," I said. "Keep trying," she said, and the way she said it sounded like the beginning of something I didn't yet have a name for. That night, I set my phone on Do Not Disturb and wrote a check. I never thought I'd write an anonymous donation to the center with a sticky note that said, "No credit, just needs." It felt like a vote for a future where the word family didn't require a blood test. When I finally slept, I dreamed of urgent care chairs and vending machine crackers and a stranger's hand on mine while the IV found the vein. I dreamed of my mother's calendar pages fluttering like birds and landing on a line of 13 small cuts that finally bled enough to see. And in the morning, I woke to a quiet house that didn't ask me to explain myself. I made coffee at home because I wanted to. I poured 2 cups, one for me, one I set in front of the empty chair across the table. "For the person who shows up," I said to the air. The air felt less empty when I said it. After that call with Dia, I started measuring my life by who showed up, not by who shared my DNA. It's funny how quiet it grows on you. For the first time in years, no one's phone buzzes through my dinners, no one's voice criticizes my choices. I'd thought solitude would echo, but it doesn't. It hums. Still, guilt is stubborn. It lingers like smoke after a fire, curling around every good thing I build. Each time I paid a bill without panic, part of me whispered, "They're losing their house." Each time I donated anonymously, a voice hissed, "You could have helped them instead." Dia heard it in my tone long before I said it. "You're not their debt collector, sweetheart," she told me while we shelved boxes at the shelter. "You're their lesson. Don't confuse the two." She was right, but lessons ache. At the shelter, they started calling me the quiet volunteer. I wasn't loud, didn't chase praise. I learned names, stories, how to fold blankets the way Dia did. Tight corners, clean edges. One afternoon, a man named Russell came in looking for work boots. He'd lost his job after missing shifts to care for his sick wife. His hands trembled when he laced the boots I found him. And when he thanked me, I saw it, what gratitude looks like when someone isn't used to being seen. That night, I paid his utility bill anonymously through the shelter's hardship fund. Patricia, the director, caught me in the hallway. "You're getting a reputation," she said, teasing. "For what?" "For making my bookkeeping a nightmare. You keep covering balances before I can assign them to donors." I shrugged. "Guess I like being the glitch in the system." She smiled. "Keep glitching. People notice the light through the cracks." 3 weeks later, Patricia called me into her office. "Got a surprise for you." On her desk was a folder labeled Renovation Proposal. "The shelter's falling apart," she said, flipping it open. "We need new computers, repairs, childcare space for parents taking job classes, but grants take forever." "How much?" I asked. She laughed. "Don't even ask. 100,000. It's just a dream list." I opened my checkbook. "Then let's start dreaming." She blinked. "Wait, what?" "I'll fund it, all of it." "Mara, that's not pocket change." "I know, but it's not charity either. It's an investment in proof." "Proof of what?" she asked, genuinely confused. "That people can do better when someone believes they deserve better." Patricia's eyes glistened. "You want a plaque? A room named after you?" I shook my head. "No names, no credit." She nodded slowly. "Anonymous angel, huh?" "Just someone who got lucky and doesn't believe in luck." That night, I drove home under a violet sky streaked with gold. The city looked different, less like a battlefield, more like blueprints. Of course, my family didn't stop trying to rebuild the bridge they'd burned. Brandon emailed from an address I'd blocked months ago, using a subject line I couldn't ignore. "I'm sorry. Please read." He wrote, "Mara, I know you probably hate me. You have every right to, but I want to make things right. I know Mom's been seeing a therapist. I started too. I get it now. I was a jerk. I'm sorry. But please, Mom's health is bad. The stress is killing her. We're going to lose the house next month. Even a few thousand would buy time, if not for us, for her." The guilt came flooding back, relentless and familiar. I almost typed, "I'll think about it." But Dia's words echoed, "You're not their debt collector." Instead, I forwarded the email to myself with a note at the bottom, proof they still see you as a wallet, not a woman. Then I archived it. A week later, Dia found me sorting clothes in the donation room. "You look like someone fighting ghosts," she said. "I got another message from my brother." What did he want? What he always wants. The easy way out. She leaned against a rack of winter coats. And what did you do? Nothing. Good. Sometimes doing nothing is how you break a pattern. She told me about her son then, the one she lost to addiction years ago. Love made me his crutch, she said quietly. By the time I stopped rescuing him, he didn't know how to walk on his own. I'm scared that's who I'll become, I admitted. Cold. Hard. You're not cold, she said. You're finally warm enough to stop standing in their shade. By midsummer, the renovations were underway. New computers arrived for the job center. We built a small kitchen for the food program. Patricia insisted I come to the reopening. I stood in the back while she gave her speech. This happened because someone believed in us, she said. Someone who never asked for thanks. So we'll just say it here. Thank you, wherever you are. The applause rose, echoing off the newly painted walls. I clapped too, unseen in the crowd. For the first time, I didn't feel like an outsider pretending at generosity. I felt anchored. Like every good thing I'd done was a brick in the foundation of something real. But peace is fragile. It lasted exactly 3 days before Mom called again. I'm sorry, she said right away. I know you said not to call, but please listen. I'm listening. Your father's heart medication isn't covered anymore. We're drowning. I know you said no before, but we've changed. I've changed. I'm in therapy. I see it now. Everything I did wrong. Her voice cracked. I believed the tears this time. But I also knew tears can be both truth and tactic. I'm proud you're getting help, I said gently, but I can't rescue you. You have millions, she whispered. And you had years, I said softly. She started crying again, not angry this time, just tired. Then what am I supposed to do? What you told me to do, I said. Work harder. Make coffee at home. I hung up before the ache in my chest could rewrite the ending. That night, I sat on my porch, watching rain gather in the gutters. The storm smelled clean, fresh, forgiving. When my phone rang again, I almost didn't answer, but the caller ID said Delea. I hope I'm not interrupting, she said. Never. Good, because I made extra soup and I'm not letting it go to waste. Bring your stubborn self over. Her house was warm, smelling of garlic and family. Her daughter and grandkids were there, arguing over board games. The youngest, Timothy, waved me over. You're here. Grandma made your favorite. Which one's that? I asked. All of them, he said, grinning. Dinner felt like a balm I didn't know I needed. No expectations, no guilt, just warmth and laughter and a kitchen full of noise that healed rather than hurt. When it was time to leave, Dia hugged me at the door. You can't pour from an empty cup, she said. But baby, don't forget to sip for yourself too. Driving home, I realized that maybe family wasn't something you're born into. It was something you built, one act of showing up at a time. And I was finally building mine. The next morning, Patricia called from the shelter. We got an anonymous donation, she said, excitement fizzing in her voice. $100,000 for the community expansion. Do you know what that means? Yes, I said, smiling into the sunlight. It means someone's still trying. She laughed. Whoever it is, I hope they know they changed everything. They do, I said softly. And for the first time, I truly felt it. What Dia meant by peace. It wasn't silence. It wasn't revenge. It was knowing I didn't owe anyone my pain anymore. 2 months passed before another envelope with my mother's handwriting arrived. No return address this time, just my name written carefully, like she was afraid the ink might bite. I almost tossed it aside. Then I saw the smudge near the corner, a thumbprint streaked with mascara. Old habits die slow, and curiosity still knows my address. Inside were 6 handwritten pages, and the kind of honesty that shows up only when someone's finally cornered by themselves. Dear Mara, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you should. But your words have been echoing since the call. Why was a spa weekend more important than my daughter? I think I finally know the answer, and it's ugly. I wanted to believe I was better than my mother, who always made me feel small. When you struggled, it reminded me I hadn't escaped her shadow. It was easier to make you the problem than to face my own cowardice. We lost the house. We rent a 2-bedroom apartment now. It smells like new paint and humility. Your father drives a delivery van. I work part-time at the grocery store. Sometimes, when I'm stocking shelves, I think about how many small kindnesses I could have afforded and didn't. I see people who remind me of you. Tired, hopeful, trying anyway, and I help them now. It doesn't fix what I did to you, but I'm starting to understand what you meant by doing the work. I'm not asking for money. I'm not asking for forgiveness either. I just wanted you to know I see you now. I see what I missed, and I'm ashamed of how blind I let myself be. I love you, even if that means loving you from a distance that I built. Mom. I read it in the car outside the shelter, where I was supposed to be delivering boxes of donated school supplies. By the second page, the world blurred. Not because I forgave her, because I mourned her, the version that might have been, if fear hadn't been louder than love. I didn't write back. Not yet. Some words deserve a long echo before they earn an answer. 2 weeks later, I saw Brandon. I was at the grocery store, sliding fruit into my cart, when a man in a frayed jacket caught my eye. He was standing at the self-checkout, shoulders hunched, counting coins like they were seconds. Then I recognized him, my brother. He looked smaller, the kind of tired that doesn't come from work, but from losing the belief that you'll get a break. The register blinked red. He didn't have enough. The cashier waited, polite but detached. People behind him sighed, shifting impatiently. I had a choice to make. Part of me, the angry part, wanted to keep walking, to let him feel what it's like to ask for help and get apathy in return. But his voice arrived, gentle but firm. Kindness doesn't mean surrender. Boundaries can have soft edges. I stepped forward. How much is he short? I asked. The cashier blinked. $8.47. I handed her a 10. Keep the change. Brandon turned, disbelief flickering in his eyes like a dying bulb. Mara? I didn't hug him, didn't smile, just said quietly, "This isn't for you. It's for the person I choose to be." His lip trembled. "I'm sorry, I've been such an idiot." "Yes," I said, "you have." He looked at the floor. "Can we talk? Just talk?" "About what?" I asked. "About how sorry you are, now that it's your turn to need something?" He shook his head. "No, about how I ruined everything." I sighed. "Then start by fixing what you can control. Go home, work, change. And maybe one day you can ask again, not for money, but for time, for forgiveness, but not today." And I left him standing there, clutching a bag of groceries that cost him pride more than cash. That night I told Dia. "You paid for him anyway," she said. "It wasn't mercy," I said. "It was proof." "Proof of what?" "That I can be kind without being broken." She smiled. "You're learning." Boundaries don't freeze people out. They teach them where the warmth is earned. By fall, the shelter's renovations were finished. New childcare space, a stocked pantry, a proper kitchen that smelled of bread and renewal. Patricia asked me to come to her office. When I walked in, she was holding a stack of folders. "We need to talk," she said, eyes glinting like a secret she'd been dying to share. "Uh-oh," I said, pretending lightness. "I know who you are," she said softly. My stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" She slid a folder toward me. "You're the lottery winner, aren't you? The one who's been funding everything." I froze. She smiled gently. "Don't worry, your secret's safe, but you need to hear something." She opened another folder, photos, letters, progress reports. "You've changed this community. In 1 year, 346 families kept their homes. 30 kids got college scholarships. We built a kitchen, a daycare, an after-school program. You did that." Tears burned behind my eyes. "I didn't do it alone." "No," she said, "but you started it, and you did it without needing your name on a plaque. That's what makes it real." I swallowed hard. "You know, I thought I was fixing something in me." "Maybe you were," she said, "but you fixed a lot more than that." That night, I came home to an unexpected text. Unknown number, just 2 words. "From Mom, proud of you." No requests, no guilt, just that. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I typed 2 words back. "Thank you." Simple, honest, enough. Because maybe healing didn't mean forgiveness or reunion. Maybe it was smaller, like acknowledging a voice without inviting it to live inside your head again. I saved the message under "maybe someday." A week later, Patricia called. "There's a new family in crisis," she said. "Dad lost his job. Mom's recovering from surgery. 3 kids under 10. Rent due Friday." "How much?" $10. "I'll cover it," I said. "Mara, you've already done so much." "I'm not done," I said quietly. "Not yet." At the shelter that weekend, I met the family. The mother was thin, pale, her eyes ringed with fatigue. The father's hand shook as he filled out paperwork. Their kids sat together coloring on scrap paper. The oldest girl looked up and smiled. "Are you one of the helpers?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah, I guess I am." When she hugged me goodbye, she slipped a drawing into my hand. A house under a bright sun with stick figures holding hands. On top, in crooked letters, she'd written, "Thank you for showing up." That night, I pinned it on my fridge beside the letter from Mom and the compass Dia had given me months before. I stood there for a long time, studying all three: the past, the person who saved me, and the child who didn't even know I existed until that day, and realized they were all the same story told in different languages. Family wasn't lost, it was rewritten, and I was finally the author. Winter rolled in quiet and heavy. The mountains behind my house looked like folded paper dusted in white. I had built a life with corners that fit. Steady work, a small circle of people who called because they wanted to, not because they needed something. Then one afternoon the phone rang, and the world narrowed to a single word. Stroke. Dia. The hospital was only 15 minutes away, but every red light felt like an hour. When I reached her room, the sight of her stopped me cold. Half her face slack, an IV snaking up her arm, her breathing shallow but still stubborn. She saw me and managed a lopsided smile. "There's my girl," she mumbled, the words blurred but clear enough. I took her hand, the one that had once held mine in urgent care. "I'm here," I said, choking back tears. "Scared," she whispered. "I know," I said, "but you're not alone." Her daughter, Evelyn, arrived minutes later with her husband and kids. We fell into the rhythm of waiting rooms, coffee that tasted like cardboard, polite nurses, the constant shuffle of bad news trying to become better. That first night, Evelyn pulled me aside. "She was asking for you even before the ambulance came," she said. "You're family to her, you know that?" I nodded, though the word family still made something twist inside me. Over the next few days, I learned the mechanics of caring: how to watch monitors without panicking, how to ask the right questions, how to be the calm one when everyone else needed to break. When the doctor said she would recover with time and therapy, the relief came out as a laugh that sounded like crying. I stayed most nights. I brought her books, lotion, socks that didn't look like hospital issue. One evening, while she dozed, I wandered into the hallway and found a couple sitting on the floor near the vending machines, their hands clasped like anchors. Their little boy was in surgery. They hadn't eaten in 2 days. I went to the cafeteria, bought sandwiches, juice, and coffee, then handed them the tray. The father tried to pay me back with quarters from his pocket. "Keep it," I said. Someone did the same for me once. When I walked back into Dia's room, she was awake. Her smile curved awkwardly around the weakness in her cheek. "Still feeding strangers?" "Still learning from the best," I said. Her eyes filled. "Don't stop, baby. The world needs more people who remember to show up." Recovery took months. Physical therapy, speech therapy, patience none of us had, but all of us learned. I was there through it, folding laundry, reading aloud, pushing her wheelchair down hallways lined with other people trying to start again. One afternoon, she handed me a small wooden box. "Open it." Inside was a photo of her and her husband, young and bright. On the back, faded ink read, "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands beside you when everything falls apart." I traced the words with my thumb. "He wrote this?" She nodded. "He said it after we took in our first foster kid. It's the only rule that's ever worked." I blinked back tears. "I don't deserve this." She squeezed my hand. "You already have it. This is just proof." By spring, she was walking again, slower but steadier. We celebrated her progress with a dinner that looked suspiciously like a family reunion. Her daughter, grandkids, and me crowded around a table too small for everyone's elbows. Halfway through, Timothy, her youngest grandson, looked at me seriously. "Grandma says you're part of the family now." I smiled. "She says that?" "Yep, she said family is people who don't leave." Dia laughed, voice still rough. "Out of the mouths of babes." After dinner, as we washed dishes, she said quietly, "He's right, you know. You don't leave. That's why you belong." A month later, I saw Mom. I was leaving the community center when a familiar voice called my name. I turned, and there she was, older, thinner, but her eyes were different, softer. "I'm not here to ask for anything," she said quickly. "I volunteer here now. Patricia invited me. I've been coming for 6 months." The words hit me like a language I didn't expect her to speak. "You volunteer?" She nodded. "I heard about the programs you helped fund. Not from her directly. She kept your secret. But I wanted to understand, to see the world the way you saw it when no one helped you." We stood in silence, the hum of the center around us, kids laughing, dishes clattering, the muffled buzz of hope doing its work. "I don't expect forgiveness," she said finally, "or even conversation. I just wanted you to know I'm trying." "That's good," I said. "I'm glad you're trying." "Does this mean—" she started, but I stopped her gently. It doesn't mean anything yet, I said, but maybe someday it could. She nodded. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. As she turned to leave, I saw her pause at the doorway to help a young mother carry boxes into the pantry. The sight didn't heal me, but it loosened something. Maybe remorse could turn into redemption if you let it breathe long enough. That night I told Dia what happened. So she's showing up now, she said, stirring tea. Good. The trick is not to build a house out of one apology. Let her keep showing up. That's the only kind of change that sticks. I nodded. Part of me still doesn't trust it. You don't have to, she said. You just have to keep living. Let her catch up if she can. I smiled. You always make it sound simple. It's not simple, she said. It's just love with boundaries. A week later, Patricia pulled me aside after a staff meeting. We're naming the new family room, she said. I shook my head immediately. No names, you promised. She grinned. Relax. It's not yours. It's the Dia room, for her work here. She doesn't know yet. When Dia saw the plaque, she cried. I cried too, though I pretended it was allergies. This is what you built, she told me. Not money, roots. And she was right. Because when I walked through those rooms and saw mothers cooking, fathers filling out job applications, kids laughing with mouths full of free cookies, I didn't think about the ticket in the drawer or the family that failed me. I thought about the night a stranger held my hand in a sterile hallway and called me family. That evening, I sat on my porch watching the sun dip behind the ridge. My phone buzzed. Mom again. This time, the message was just a photo, her standing beside a stack of food boxes at the shelter, smiling with real warmth. Small steps, the caption read. For once, I didn't feel anger or pity, just a strange, quiet hope. I typed back, keep going. Maybe healing wasn't a straight line. Maybe it was a circle, one that widened just enough to let a few people back in when they learned how to stay. I closed my phone and looked up at the mountains. The snow had melted, but the peaks were still shining in the last light of day. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was waiting for anything to happen. Everything that mattered had already started. 2 years after that night at urgent care, the drawer that once held the lottery ticket was empty except for a folded photograph. Me, Dia, and Timothy at the shelter's holiday dinner. We're all mid-laugh, cheeks flushed from too much cocoa, a blur of motion instead of a pose. It looked exactly how I wanted life to feel, imperfect and alive. The money was still there, but it had become background noise, the quiet kind, the hum of security, not the roar of greed. I used it like oxygen, invisible but necessary, never flaunted. Every time I wrote a check for a struggling family or an overworked social worker's new program, I remembered what Dia told me. You don't have to be seen to make something grow. The foundation had a name now, the Dilea Fund. She hated that I used it at first. You promised no plaques, she scolded, wagging her finger. There's no plaque, I said, just paperwork and people's rent receipts. She pretended to be annoyed. Then she smiled, that half-crooked smile the stroke had softened but never erased. If it helps people, I can live with it. And it did help, hundreds by then. Parents who needed an extra month to find their footing, students who couldn't afford textbooks, seniors choosing between groceries and medication. Patricia kept count. I didn't. I only kept names. Written in a small notebook that lived in my purse, each entry a reminder of a moment where I could do what my family hadn't. Show up. Life had finally learned balance. I was back in school, studying social work part-time, working at the shelter 3 days a week. On Sundays, Christopher, a high school English teacher I'd met while volunteering, cooked dinner at my house. He'd bring poetry books and bottles of wine with cheap labels and expensive flavors, and I'd laugh at his bad jokes, while Dia's old compass sat on the counter, always pointing north. One night, after washing dishes, he asked, "Do you ever regret it, the way things happened?" I thought about Mom, still volunteering, still sending me photos of her progress, pictures of her helping sort food donations, her smile awkward but genuine. About Brandon, who had mailed me a check for the $3,000 he owed, plus interest. About the past, which still stung but no longer infected. No, I said. I think I needed it, all of it. The pain taught me what kind of person I didn't want to be. He nodded. That's one way to define family, by subtraction. A year later, Dia passed away quietly in her sleep. The call came from Evelyn, her daughter. She went peacefully, she said. Her last words were about you. She said you were her proof that love outlives mistakes. I didn't speak for a moment. Then, She saved me, you know." She said you saved her right back. The funeral was small, held in the community center that bore her name. Patricia asked if I'd say something, and for once, words didn't feel heavy. "She was the first person who showed up when I didn't deserve it," I told the room. "She taught me that kindness isn't charity, it's courage. It's choosing to stay even when you don't have to." When I finished, Timothy ran up and hugged my waist. "Grandma said you're my godmother now," he whispered. I knelt down and looked him in the eye. "Then that makes you my family," I said. He grinned. "Good. I already decided you were." Weeks later, I received a package in the mail. Inside was Dia's small wooden box, the one that once held her husband's photograph and their faded quote. On top of it, a note in Evelyn's handwriting. "She wanted you to have this. She said you'd know what to do with it." I opened the box and found the same picture, the same inscription. "Family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands beside you when everything falls apart." But underneath the photo was something new, a letter addressed to me. "Baby girl, you think you found family because I showed up in a car one night. Truth is, I found mine the moment you let me. That's how it works. One person decides to stay and the other decides to believe them. Don't stop staying, Mara. Keep showing up. That's where the real magic hides. Love always. D." I pressed the letter to my chest and cried until the tears turned into something else, a kind of gratitude too big for words. Mom called a few days later. "I heard about Dia," she said. "I'm so sorry. She sounded like a remarkable woman." "She was," I said. "I think she would have liked me," Mom said hesitantly. "She would have," I said, "but only the version of you who shows up." There was a long pause, then, "I'm trying." "I know. Could I bring you dinner sometime? Just dinner. No conversations about the past, no guilt trips, just food." It was a simple offer, and it terrified me. But then I remembered Dia's letter. "Keep showing up." "Okay," I said, "dinner." And that's how it started. Small, tentative meals, shared at a table that used to be heavy with resentment. We didn't fix everything, but we talked, we laughed. We existed without needing to rewrite the past. Sometimes that's the most radical kind of healing. 2 years later, standing at the community center's annual gala, I watched Patricia announce a new scholarship, one funded by the Delia Fund, dedicated to students who'd survived homelessness and family estrangement. The first recipient was a shy 17-year-old girl named Kayla. She walked up to the podium, hands shaking, and said, "Someone told me once that love isn't something you earn. It's something you build." I think whoever told her that was right. The applause was thunderous. I felt Dia's voice in it, soft but steady. Afterward, Christopher found me by the door. "You okay?" "Yeah," I said, smiling through tears. "More than okay." That night, after everyone had left, I drove to the hill overlooking the city, the same place where Dia and I used to watch the sunset when we needed to breathe. I took the compass from my pocket, set it on the dashboard, and whispered, "I'm still here." The arrow pointed north, but somehow it felt like it was pointing home. Home wasn't the house I'd grown up in or the family that shared my blood. It was the life I'd built with people who chose me, the family I'd met in hallways, in waiting rooms, in the quiet courage of strangers. I tell this story now to anyone who thinks love comes pre-packaged in obligation or last names. It doesn't. Love comes in hands that hold yours in the dark, in soup that waits on the stove, in text messages that say proud of you without asking for anything back. It comes in the people who stay. I don't keep the lottery ticket anymore. I burned it on the anniversary of Dia's passing, out back under the same stars she used to talk to when she thought no one was listening. Because I don't need it to remember what it gave me. It bought my freedom. But the people, the ones who showed up, they gave me something worth more than any number. They gave me here, and every morning since, I've woken up and chosen it again.